All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Seattle Seahawks in tonight's video. It's Friday night. I don't feel the best, so I apologize for the lack of energy here. But the Seattle Seahawks, I was just reading an article here from fieldgoals.com, and basically an ESPN analyst goes through all 32 teams and gives them an offseason grade heading into training camp once minicamp, OTAs, all that fun stuff is officially over. And to my surprise, he actually gave the Seattle Seahawks offseason grade a B, and I completely agree with it. I think, the two biggest moves that Seattle made this offseason was your brand new head coach, Mike Macdonald, the defensive genius, and Ryan Grubb, your new offensive coordinator, moving on from Shane Waldron. So, here's the thing. Seattle was really competitive last season. Guys, the Seattle Seahawks went 9-8 last season. Their defense gave up like more than 25 points 8 or 9 times. I mean, it's impossible. That's not how Geno Smith will thrive playing football. If you're just giving up 30 plus points multiple times a season, you're playing from behind. That's just not how any offense wants to operate, but that's not how your offense is going to operate with Geno Smith, ideally. And, we saw it with the rush game. I mean, they were one of the worst rushing teams in the NFL. Like, I was looking at some of these defensive statistics. I knew the coaching was a disaster the last couple of years defensively. But it just kind of was mind-blowing how catastrophic some of these games were last season for this defense. So Mike Macdonald, first and foremost, huge-ass move. And then I really like Ryan Grubb being your new OC. So welcome back to the channel. Before we get any further into tonight's video, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We haven't made a Seahawks video in a couple of weeks, so if we get this video to 100 likes, we're definitely going to change that. But regardless, plenty of Seahawks content coming all offseason heading into this season. Seattle 9-8 the last 2 seasons. I mean, it's just a much better team than so many people think about. I think when you look at Geno Smith, people think it's just a little underwhelming. That's not the case. Dude was a Pro Bowler 2 seasons ago, and they've got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the NFL. You've got such a deep, talented running back room. You got a nice offensive line. I think guys like Christian Haynes that you snagged are super slept on. But the offseason clearly was highlighted by the moving on from Pete Carroll as your new head coach. Now, I've talked about Mike Macdonald and what I want him to bring to Seattle culture-wise, defensively. Just kind of, Legion of Boom obviously gets brought up a lot when talking about the Seahawks defense. But there's so much talent. They've had so much talent the last couple of years. And, when we go back to that playoff loss against San Francisco 2 years ago, I mean, that season just could have been so much different. And last year, obviously, if the defense, some of these tweaks were implemented, but you did lose some pieces. All right. Starting safeties, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks. You revamped your defense. You retained guys like Leonard Williams, Noah Fant. You picked up Sam Howell. You restructured Geno Smith's contract, so he's clearly quarterback 1 this upcoming season. You got one of, if not probably the best defensive player in the entire draft in Byron Murphy. I cannot wait for this dude's career, and he's going to make an impact immediately. But going back to that article, I was with ESPN. The guy writing was Seth Walder. He graded the offseason moves of every NFL team at the Seahawks with a B. He said Mike Macdonald was the biggest move, and he liked the decision to keep Geno. But the move he wasn't keen on was re-signing Leonard Williams. And so I went back to Leonard Williams. And when he got traded to Seattle, giving up a second-round pick, got a lot of backlash at the time. But I think if you're a Seahawks fan, I get it. There's some age concerns. He's 30 years old. You gave up a second-round pick for a dude on an expired contract. So you kind of had to re-sign him either way. But I like what he brings to the defensive line. And last season, in 10 games with Seattle, 4 total sacks, 41 tackles, 11 quarterback hits, a couple of tackles for loss, 9 of them, in fact. So they played all 17 games. I actually think he played 18 games because of that trade. But, maybe Leonard Williams by his 3rd season, you won't really need him to the degree that you will this upcoming season. But no, I do like that move for re-signing him. Finally, we have a to-do list. I was reading a to-do list. I think this was from Bleacher Report, and I kind of disagreed with a lot of the things with the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle is going to be really interesting to me this upcoming season. I think their offense is going to be much more consistent, a lot more reliable, and I think the same thing's going to apply to the defense. Mike Macdonald's a defensive guru. defensive guru. We knew this from his tenure in the Baltimore Ravens as their defensive coordinator. And, it might not be right away, it might not be immediate, but you need a head coach long term. And it just kind of appeared in the last couple of seasons, especially this past year, that Pete Carroll just simply wasn't going to be the answer. So, we'll touch on this because I really don't think Seattle needs to do any of these. Number one, they said add a center. You got Olu there. I think his future is super bright. He had limited action as a rookie last season. I do get the philosophy of picking up a veteran center to help out there just in case. Technically, their backup center right now is Nick Harris, so it's not the worst idea. But I really think Olu is like, I remember scouting this dude at Michigan once you guys drafted him last year, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, this actually could be the steal of the entire NFL draft, but this would definitely be one of the top steals of the entire offensive line draft. And I think that's going to come into fruition immediately this upcoming season. I mean, folks, this dude at Michigan was a literal freaking superstar. All right, so moving on. Number two, trade D. Eskridge. I guess it makes sense because you got DK, you got Tyler Lockett. I do wonder what like Tyler Lockett's future looks like with Seattle. I think, honestly, he probably retires as a Seahawk. But JSN, obviously coming off of his rookie season where we saw a bunch of flashes. I mean, picked him up in the first round. I think he's got a bright future there. And Jake Bobo, a player who had a phenomenal rookie season, flying under the radar. D. Eskridge is just... It sucks because, the dude hasn't really played in like 5 years. He lit it up in the Senior Bowl. I don't know what value you're going to get for a trade like that. I don't know if it's really needed. I love his speed, but once again, there's a lot of dudes, Jake Bobo, wide receiver number 4. I just don't I don't need to trade him. I just thought that was kind of a random thing to throw into the article. But let me know what you guys are thinking. Maybe, dude, he averaged like 24 yards per catch in his senior season or his last season at Central Michigan. Granted, it was COVID, so I think they only played like 6 games over at Western Michigan. But I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about that. And then finally, you have sign a safety. And I hate this because I think Julian Love, his versatility, especially what we saw last season, right? You moved on from Jamal Adams, rightfully so. But you picked up Rashawn Jenkins, and here was like the excerpt from this article. The front office did sign Rashawn Jenkins to start next to Love, but Jenkins has been more of an average player throughout his career. Seattle should explore its options and see if there's someone who can at least compete for the job in training camp. Worst case, the team adds some depth to a thin position group. So, I actually don't hate that final sentence, adding a little bit more depth to the room. But I don't think, I think Rashawn Jenkins and Julian Love's a perfectly fine safety combination. So let me know what you guys think about that one more time. Sign a safety, pick up another center, and trade D. Eskridge. Kind of underwhelming in my opinion, but let me know what you guys are thinking. Once again, I know this was kind of just a random video. Sorry, low energy. It's like 10 p.m. here. About to finish up this Stanley Cup. I'm rooting for Edmonton. But thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Give me what was the thing you liked the most about the Seattle Seahawks offseason thus far? Let me know down below. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.